The Washington Commanders are stepping into an offseason that can change everything for this franchise. 2 years ago, this team felt like a rising power in the NFC, with Jaden Daniels playing like a star and a fan base finally believing again. Now they sit in a strange place, close enough to remember how it felt to be one win away from the Super Bowl, close enough to feel how fast it can all slip if they get this stretch wrong. This is not a normal reset where you hope the next guy under center will save you. Washington already has that answer in Jaden Daniels, and that is what makes the pressure here so real. The front office with Adam Peters and the coaching staff with Dan Quinn are holding real tools in their hands. Big cap space, a top draft pick, a core of proven veterans who can still play at a high level. They have seen the ceiling of this roster when the offense is rolling and the defense is flying around, and they have lived through the floor when injuries and thin depth drag everything down. That mix of proof and pain is what makes every decision they make right now feel heavier. The real question is simple but brutal. Can they protect Jaden Daniels, give him enough reliable weapons, and finally build a defense that does not crack in the biggest moments? Or will they waste the best years of a special quarterback while the rest of the conference gets stronger? To understand what has to change and why this offseason matters so much, you have to look at how a 12-win contender crashed down to a 5-win season in 1 year, and how that slide exposed every weakness they now have to fix. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Commanders and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. Nobody expected the Washington Commanders to fall this hard this fast. One season, you are watching Jaden Daniels tear through the NFC, lifting a team that had been stuck in the middle for years, and the next you are staring at a 5-win record that feels completely out of place. It did not feel like a slow slide. It felt like the floor opened under a group that had just proven it could stand toe-to-toe with the best teams in football. And that shock is still sitting in the building. What really happened is that the thin spots on offense finally showed up at the same time. The run game started hot. The ground attack sat near the top of the league through the first stretch, but the passing game never found that same rhythm. Terry McLaurin was fighting through a quad issue and could not play with his usual burst early in the year, so Deebo Samuel suddenly had to act like a true number one on the outside instead of the movable weapon he has always been. Behind them, you had Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown, Chris Rodriguez, Jackery Krosky-Merritt, and Jalen Lane, all giving effort, all flashing in moments, but most of them are best when they are supporting pieces, not when they are asked to carry the whole show every single week. Then came the stretch that turned a strange season into a brutal one. Jaden Daniels was still making plays, still showing the same courage in the pocket, but hit after hit started to stack up. A knee sprain against Green Bay, a hamstring issue against Dallas. And finally, that ugly arm injury against Seattle forced Marcus Mariota into long runs of snaps, while Austin Eckler went down with his own major injury, and Zach Ertz battled through the wear and tear of a long career. By the time Jaden Daniels tried to come back late, the timing was gone, the offense was pressing, and the 5 wins were already written on the board. To really fix this, Washington cannot just say it was bad luck. They have to look at the line in front of him, the weapons around him, and the shape of the scheme, which is exactly where the story goes next when we talk about the Jaden Daniels window and the new look offense they are trying to build around him. The scariest part about the Washington Commanders is that they still have not seen the true peak of Jaden Daniels with a complete offense around him. He already showed he can play calm in the pocket, escape when he has to, and carry a team through pressure games when the pieces are not perfect. That is why this moment is so heavy for Washington. You do not build the whole program around a talent like this just to hope he figures everything out on his own. You build a clear plan so his best years line up with the best version of the roster. Up front, that plan is closer than people think. Laramie Tunsil is a true anchor at tackle. Sam Cosmi has grown into a tough presence inside. Tyler Biadasz brings steady work at center, and Josh Conerly has the traits to turn into a long-term answer if they give him time and coaching. One smart move at guard can flip this line from solid to special. A healthy Elijah Vera Tucker could be the kind of swing signing that locks the middle in place. If the price or health risk on him feels too high, veterans like Isaac Sumalo, Joel Bitonio, Kevin Zeitler, or Wyatt Teller can give them strong play and leadership without needing to be stars. Build that wall correctly, and suddenly Jaden Daniels is not fighting for space every snap. He is attacking. The other quiet change is in the design of the offense itself. The RPO world with Cliff Kingsbury brought fireworks and put Jaden Daniels in space. But it also asked him to solve a lot on his own, snap after snap. Now David Blue steps in with a more pro-style approach that wants the runs and passes to look the same, wants play action to punish aggressive defenses, and wants the ball out on time so the quarterback takes fewer clean hits. If that vision comes together, it can give Jaden Daniels a smoother rhythm and a longer career, but it will only work if the players around him fit that style. The next step is making sure his receivers, tight ends, and backs match the offense they are trying to build. And that is where the pressure really starts to shift to the weapons room. The part that should worry the rest of the NFC is not what we already saw from Jaden Daniels, it is what he will look like once Washington finally reloads the players around him the right way. When you give a smart, fearless quarterback a full set of healthy targets. The entire identity of the offense changes. Defensive coordinators stop calling their favorite pressures, corners start playing a step deeper, and one small mistake can turn into a 40-yard shot in a heartbeat. That is the vision here, a version of this attack where every snap feels dangerous again because you do not know if the ball is going to Terry McLaurin on the outside, Deebo Samuel moving across the formation, or a back leaking into space behind a confused linebacker. At wide receiver, the blueprint is simple but demanding. Terry McLaurin stays the heartbeat of the passing game, the trusted route runner who can win on third down when everyone in the stadium knows the ball is going his way. Deebo Samuel is most valuable when he can be the wild card, sometimes in the slot, sometimes in the backfield, sometimes motioning across the set just to force the defense to slide the wrong direction. Behind them, players like Luke McCaffrey, Noah Brown, and Jalen Lane can still matter, but they are at their best when they are asked to win matchups, not carry the whole room. That is why adding another receiver matters so much. Whether it is bringing back Deebo Samuel on the right number or drafting a young weapon and pairing him with a shiftier option in the mold of Wan'Dale Robinson, the goal is the same. Give Jaden Daniels 3 trustworthy options on every drop back, not one and a hope. Tight end and running back are where this offense can quietly flip from good to terrifying if they move correctly. A healthy Zach Ertz still understands every coverage he sees, but Washington also needs a seam stretcher who can run past linebackers and stress safeties. Someone like Isaiah Likely could attack the middle of the field right away, while a talent like Kyle Pitts would give Jaden Daniels a matchup answer anytime the play clock is running down. In the backfield, Chris Rodriguez brings power, Krosky Merritt brings burst and balance, and a cheap veteran such as Kenny Gainwell, Najee Harris, or J.K. Dobbins could give them fresh legs without draining the budget. If they get these choices right, the offense stops living on thin margins and starts playing on its own terms. But the reason these needs even exist after a 12-win run goes far beyond one bad year. And to understand why the shopping list is still this long, you have to go back to the old era and see how those early draft misses still shape this roster today. The wild truth about the Washington Commanders is that some of their biggest problems today were planted long before Jaden Daniels ever walked into that locker room. For years, this team used premium draft capital on players who had talent but never settled in as long-term pillars in Washington. Names like Chase Young, Jamin Davis, Jahan Dotson, and Emmanuel Forbes all arrived with real expectations, but none of them became the clear answer at those spots for this franchise. They have all shown flashes in this league, yet Washington kept finding itself still asking the same questions at edge rusher, linebacker, wide receiver, and corner a few seasons later. Once that pattern sets in, the bill always shows up. Instead of sitting on a young core grown in their own building, the new leadership had to spend picks and money chasing proven veterans to fill holes that should already have been secure. That is how you end up trading for Marshawn Lattimore to get a true outside corner, sending real assets for Deebo Samuel to add a versatile weapon, and investing in Laramie Tunsil to lock down tackle. Every one of those players can help you win. The problem is that each move costs future flexibility, mid-round depth, and the cheap contracts that make a contending roster easier to keep together. Josh Harris buying the team, Adam Peters taking over personnel, and Dan Quinn stepping in as head coach changed the direction of the building, but they inherited a depth chart shaped by years of those early swings not landing the way they needed. That is why this offseason cannot just be about patching one or two spots and hoping health fixes the rest. The Commanders have to finally flip that old script and start stacking seasons where their young defenders and role players grow into the jobs that used to be plugged by short-term answers. They have real cap space and a high first-round pick. And the next step is using those tools to fix the side of the ball that suffered the most from all of those missed chances. Because as rough as the injuries and offensive ups and downs were, the real story of last year was what happened on defense. And the plan to rebuild that entire unit from the front seven to the secondary is where things get even more serious. The hardest truth for Washington fans is that while everyone talks about Jayden Daniels and the offense, it was the defense that truly hit rock bottom. Week after week, you saw opponents walk into games knowing they could push the ball down the field, test the corners, and lean on the run game without feeling real fear. For a team coached by Dan Quinn, a coach known for fast and aggressive units, that feeling was completely upside down. When your own building knows that long drives are coming the moment you fall behind, every mistake on offense suddenly feels 10 times heavier. The problems were not about effort. They were about matchups and details. Marshawn Lattimore has a strong resume, but injuries and constant changes around him made life tough, and miscommunications with safeties like Quan Martin showed up on tape in the worst moments. Inside, Darren Payne still brought power, yet the group around him did not consistently close the pocket. Johnny Newton is still learning what it takes to win every snap. Javon Kinlaw is best as a rotational piece. And edge rushers, such as Dorrance Armstrong and Frankie Louvu, worked hard, but were asked to be finishers, rather than the complementary players they are built to be. At linebacker, legends like Bobby Wagner and Von Miller still read plays faster than most. But time always asks veterans to lean more on experience than raw speed, and offenses know how to test that. All of this added up to a unit that gave up explosive plays when it needed one clean series the most. The front office and coaching staff clearly saw that the current setup could not be the final version. Dan Quinn taking over play calling late in the year was the first signal, and bringing in Dante Jones from that aggressive Minnesota defense was the next step, a fresh voice to reset communication and structure. Young corners like Mike Sainristil and Trey Amos give them real building blocks in the secondary if they are put in roles that match their strengths. And a smart offseason can surround Darren Payne with more interior help and add one true closer off the edge so everyone else can slide into cleaner jobs. The question now is how Washington uses its cap space and draft capital to make that happen, how they balance big signings with smart picks, and how they turn this offseason blueprint into a defense that finally matches the standard of their quarterback and their goals. The shocking part about the Washington Commanders right now is how much power they actually have sitting in front of them. This is not a team scratching for pennies and hoping a bargain move hits. They sit near the top of the league in cap space, they own a premium pick near the top of the first round, and they have a core with Jayden Daniels and Terry McLaurin already in place. That combination gives them the freedom to aim high, but it also means there is no excuse if they waste it. Every contract they sign and every name they call on draft night will either tighten this window around Jayden Daniels or quietly pull it a little further open. The blueprint feels simple when you say it out loud, but it is brutal in the details. Use free agency to make the offense stable and dangerous again. Then use the draft to flood the defense with young talent. That could mean paying real money for one starting guard so Laramie Tunsil, Sam Cosmi, and Tyler Biadasz are not asked to carry the line alone. And maybe adding a pass, catching tight end, like Isaiah Likely, or even taking a swing at Kyle Pitts if the price feels right. Out wide, decide if Deebo Samuel returns on a smart deal, or if a fresh receiver from this deep class becomes the next running mate for Terry McLaurin. After that, turn to the board on draft weekend and look hard at impact defenders, an edge rusher who can finish, a corner who can handle top targets, and a safety who can clean up the miscommunication that hurt them last year. If Washington gets cute here and chases the wrong kind of splash, they can burn through that money and those picks without actually fixing the weak spots that broke the season. If they stay ruthless and honest about what this roster still lacks, they can walk out of this offseason looking like one of the most complete teams in the NFC, not just one of the most exciting on paper. That is the real line they are standing on right now, and the answer to whether the Commanders become a real problem again or just another what-if story depends on how they handle the pressure of this moment, which all builds into the final question of what this offseason really means for the future of Jayden Daniels and this entire franchise. The rest of the NFC is watching the Washington Commanders very closely right now, even if they will not say it out loud. When a team has a talent like Jayden Daniels, a star wideout like Terry McLaurin, and a fan base that just tasted real hope, the next few months decide whether that story turns into a real rise or fades away as one bright year they never fully cashed in. This is the moment where every rival either starts circling Washington on the schedule with real concern or quietly relaxes and thinks the danger has passed. That tension is sitting in every meeting room in that building. For Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, this is the stretch that will define their time in Washington. They are not starting from zero. They are standing on a thin ledge between a true contending core and a group that could slowly slide back into the middle of the pack. Keep the right veterans. Move on from the ones whose bodies are starting to betray them. Trust young pieces on defense without throwing them into situations they cannot handle. And keep Jayden Daniels surrounded by enough support that he can be creative without playing desperate. Every contract they sign, every veteran they call, every draft card they hand in says something about how serious they are about matching the standard that their quarterback already showed he can play at when the stage is biggest. If they get this wrong, the league will look back and say Washington had a special player under center and never fully met him halfway. If they get it right, this is the offseason people will point to as the start of something that lasted for years. The moment when the Commanders stopped being a fun story and turned into a weekly problem that nobody wanted to see in January. The pieces are on the table, the stakes are clear, and now the only real question is simple. When the new season kicks off and Jayden Daniels jogs onto the field behind his rebuilt roster, will the rest of the NFC feel calm, or will they feel that quiet jolt in their chest that says Washington is coming?